The morning alarm rang softly through the halls of Earth Orbital Orphanage 7. Children of dozens of different species began to wake up in their beds. Some had fur, others had scales. Some breathed oxygen, others needed different gases. But they all called this place home. Sarah Chen walked through the main corridor, checking on the early risers. She had been the director of this orphanage for 8 years now. In that time, she had seen thousands of children come and go. Some were adopted by loving families. Others grew up and left to start their own lives. But all of them had been safe here. The orphanage floated in orbit around Earth, one of 12 such stations. Each one housed children from across the galaxy. Humans had become known throughout the stars as the caretakers. When other species had wars or disasters, they sent their orphaned children to human facilities. The Terran orphanage network stretched across 200 worlds. Sarah stopped at the viewing deck. Through the massive windows, Earth turned slowly below them. Blue oceans and green continents sparkled in the sunlight. Many of the children had never seen their own home worlds. For them, this view of Earth was the most beautiful thing in the universe. "Good morning, Director Chen," said a small voice behind her. Sarah turned to see Crix, a young Zaphirian. His people were tall and proud warriors, but Crix was only 6 years old. His silver skin caught the light from Earth below. His large black eyes looked sad as they often did. "Good morning, Crix," Sarah said with a smile. "Did you sleep well?" The boy nodded. "I had the dream again. About my parents." Sarah knelt down to his level. Crix's parents had died in one of the Zaphirian Empire's many wars. The Empire cared little for orphans. They saw them as weak and useless. That was why children like Crix ended up in human care. "Dreams about people we love are never bad dreams," Sarah told him. "Even sad ones. They mean those people are still with us in here." She touched her heart. Crix smiled a little. It was progress. When he first arrived 3 months ago, he never smiled at all. The day began like any other. The children ate breakfast in the Great Hall. The younger ones went to basic classes. The older ones studied more advanced subjects. Some learned about their own species' cultures. Others explored new ideas entirely. Sarah loved watching them learn and grow. There were Altarian children with their tentacle-like arms, working alongside Centauri youth with their crystal-based minds. Humans had discovered something wonderful. Children of all species could be friends if given the chance. In the afternoon, Sarah received a message on her personal communicator. It was from Admiral Torres at Earth Defense Command. His face looked serious. "Sarah, we need to talk. It's about the Zaphirian situation." Sarah felt her stomach drop. For months, the Zaphirian Empire had been expanding their territory. They conquered weaker species and made them slaves. They destroyed anyone who stood against them. The galaxy was afraid, but no one wanted to start a war. The problem was that the Empire wanted their children back. Not to care for them, but to train them as soldiers. The Empire believed that weakness should be removed from their bloodlines. Children who could not fight were considered worthless. Sarah made her way to the communication center. Admiral Torres appeared on the main screen. Behind him, she could see other military officers. "Sarah, the Zaphirian Empire has issued another demand," Torres said. "They want all Zaphirian children in our care returned immediately. They also want any children from species they consider their property." "You mean their slaves?" Sarah said quietly. Torres nodded. "Yes. They claim those children belong to them by right of conquest." Sarah thought of Crix and the other Zaphirian children in her care. She thought of the young Deltans and Rigelians whose worlds had been conquered. These children had found safety and happiness here. The idea of sending them back to become weapons made her sick. "What did the Council say?" she asked. "The Galactic Council is divided. Some want to avoid conflict. Others support our position. But the Empire is not interested in debate. They are sending a fleet." Sarah felt cold. "When?" "They will arrive in 6 hours. They are demanding immediate compliance." Through the station's speakers, the daily activity continued. Children laughed in the recreation areas. Teachers conducted their classes. The medical staff cared for the sick. Life went on, peaceful and normal. But Sarah knew that peace was about to end. "Admiral, these children are not property," she said. "They are not weapons. They are just children." "I know, Sarah, we all know. The question is what we do about it." Sarah looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, a Zaphirian fleet was approaching. They were coming to take the children she had sworn to protect. The children who trusted her to keep them safe. We follow our principles, she said finally. We protect the children. All of them. Torres was quiet for a moment. Sarah, the Zaphirians are not known for mercy. If you refuse them, they might use force. Then that is their choice to make, Sarah replied. I will not hand over children to be turned into killers. After the communication ended, Sarah walked back through the station. She looked at the children with new eyes. Some were playing games. Others were reading or studying. A few were taking naps in the quiet rooms. They had no idea what was coming. They trusted that the adults would keep them safe. They believed in the protection that humanity offered. Sarah made an announcement over the station's communication system. Attention all staff. Please report to the main conference room in 30 minutes. We have an important situation to discuss. The teachers, medical staff, and support workers gathered quickly. Sarah explained the situation. Some looked afraid. Others looked angry. But all of them agreed on one thing. They would not abandon the children. The Zaphirian fleet will be here soon, Sarah told them. They will demand we turn over the children. I am going to refuse. Anyone who wants to leave the station should do so now. No one moved. Dr. Martinez, the head of medical, spoke first. These children are under our protection. That means something. The others nodded in agreement. Sarah felt proud of her staff. They understood what was at stake. As the hours passed, the station prepared. The children were told there might be visitors, but nothing more. The staff made sure all the safety systems were working. The defense shields were activated. Sarah stood on the bridge watching the stars. Soon she would see ships approaching. Ships that wanted to take away the children she had sworn to protect. She thought about humanity's role in the galaxy. They were the peaceful ones. The helpers. The species that built hospitals instead of weapons. Other civilizations respected them for their compassion. But Sarah wondered if compassion would be enough today. She wondered if being peaceful meant being helpless. In a few hours she would have her answer. The stars continued to shine, cold and distant. And somewhere among them, the Zaphirian fleet drew closer to Earth. The Zaphirian fleet dropped out of hyperspace like dark clouds covering the sun. 12 massive warships appeared on the Orphanage's sensors. Each ship was 3 times larger than the station itself. Their hulls were black metal covered in weapon ports and armor plating. Sarah Chen stood on the bridge watching the approaching fleet. Her hands were steady, but her heart was racing. Behind her, the communication officer waited for orders. Open a channel, Sarah said quietly. The main screen flickered to life. A Zaphirian face appeared, silver-skinned with those distinctive black eyes. But unlike little Cricks, this face showed no gentleness. The eyes were cold and hard. I am War Commander Kethvar of the Zaphirian Empire, the alien said. His voice was deep and threatening. You will identify yourself. I am Director Sarah Chen of Earth Orbital Orphanage 7, Sarah replied. You are in Terran space without permission. Kethvar made a sound that might have been laughter. Permission? We take what we need, human. We have come for our property. There is no property here, Sarah said firmly. Only children under our protection. The War Commander's expression grew darker. You misunderstand your place in this galaxy, human. Your species serves us by caring for the weak. When we decide those weak ones are ready to serve the Empire, you will deliver them. Sarah felt anger rising in her chest. These children are not soldiers. They are not weapons. They are just children who need safety and love. Love? Kethvar spat. Love makes them soft, weak. We will teach them strength through battle. They will learn to serve the Empire properly, or they will die trying. The communication officer next to Sarah looked sick. Even the bridge crew seemed horrified by the War Commander's words. I will not turn over any child to be used as a weapon, Sarah said. Human law forbids it. Galactic treaties forbid it. Kethvar leaned forward on the screen. Your laws mean nothing to us. Your treaties are paper and space. You have 1 hour to prepare the children for transport, all Zaphirian young, and all children from worlds we now control. Sarah did quick math in her head. That would be almost 8,000 children, more than 1/6 of everyone on the station. No, she said simply. The War Commander's eyes widened slightly. Clearly, he had not expected such a direct refusal. You mistake our patience for weakness, Kethvar said slowly. We have allowed humans to play caretaker because it serves our purposes. But do not think this makes you our equals. I understand exactly what you are, Sarah replied. You are someone who threatens children. That makes you my enemy. For a moment, the alien seemed surprised by her tone. Then his expression turned truly dangerous. Very well, human. You have chosen to learn a lesson the hard way. In your language, I believe the saying is, we will teach you the price of defiance. The screen went dark. Sarah turned to her communication officer.
Get me Admiral Torres immediately. Within moments, the Admiral's face appeared on screen.
His expression was grim. Sarah, we are tracking the Zaphirian fleet. What is your status? They want 8,000 children, Sarah said. I refused. They are threatening force. Torres was quiet for a moment. Sarah, our nearest fleet is 6 hours away. The defense platforms around Earth are powerful, but they are designed to protect the planet, not the orbital stations. I understand, Sarah said. We are on our own. The station has shields and some defensive weapons, Torres reminded her. But against a full fleet, Sarah nodded. She knew the odds. The orphanage was not a military base. It was designed to be a safe home for children, not a fortress. Admiral, I need you to contact every news service in the galaxy, she said. I want them to know what happens here today. Torres looked confused. Sarah, what are you planning? I am going to show the galaxy what the Zaphirian Empire really is, she replied. I am going to make sure everyone sees what they do to children. After ending the communication, Sarah made an announcement throughout the station. All staff, please move the children to the central safe areas. This is not a drill. Activate all emergency procedures. The staff moved quickly and calmly. They had trained for emergencies, though no one had ever imagined this kind of threat. The children were gathered in the heavily shielded central sections of the station. The youngest ones thought it was a game. The older ones sensed something was wrong. Sarah walked through the safe areas, checking on everyone. She stopped when she saw Crix huddled with other Zaphirian children. The little boy looked terrified. Director Chen, he whispered. Are the bad people coming for us? Sarah knelt down beside him. Around them, children of dozens of species waited quietly. Human staff members stood ready to protect them. Some people want to take you away from here, Sarah said gently, but we are not going to let that happen. But they are so strong, Crix said. The Empire always wins. Sarah looked into his large black eyes. Maybe they have not fought the right people yet. 45 minutes later, Sarah was back on the bridge when the attack began. The first missile struck the educational wing of the station. The impact threw everyone to the floor. Emergency alarms began screaming throughout the complex. Sarah pulled herself up and checked the damage reports. The educational section was completely destroyed. If there had been classes going on, hundreds of children would have died. Shields holding at 60%, reported the tactical officer. The second missile hit the medical bay. This time the explosion was even bigger. Sarah watched in horror as an entire section of the station vented atmosphere into space. They are targeting civilian areas, the tactical officer said in disbelief. They are actually targeting the children. Sarah felt something cold and terrible settle in her chest. The Zaphirians were not trying to disable the station. They were not trying to force surrender. They were trying to kill everyone aboard. Open a channel to the fleet, she ordered. Kethvar's face appeared again. Behind him, Sarah could see other Zaphirian officers watching with satisfaction. Are you ready to surrender your defiance, human? He asked. You are targeting children, Sarah said. You are murdering innocents. We are teaching a lesson, Kethvar replied coldly. Defiance has consequences. Weakness must be punished. A third missile struck the station's main power grid. The lights flickered and emergency power kicked in. This is your final chance, the war commander said. Surrender the children or we will take what remains from the wreckage. Sarah looked around the bridge. Her crew was watching her, waiting for orders. Through the viewports, she could see the Zaphirian fleet positioning for another attack. No, she said again. Kethvar nodded as if he had expected this answer. Then you will die knowing that your stubbornness killed them all. The fourth missile was different, bigger. It struck the central section of the station where the safe areas were located. Sarah felt the station shake apart around her. She was thrown against the wall as artificial gravity failed. Through the screaming alarms and the sound of metal tearing, she could hear something that made her heart stop. Children crying. The safe areas had been breached. The children were in danger. As Sarah lost consciousness, her last thought was that she had failed them. The children she had sworn to protect were going to die, and she had not been strong enough to save them. But somewhere in the darkness behind her closed eyes, She sensed something else. Something waiting in the black spaces between the stars. Something that had been patient for a very long time. Something that was no longer patient. Sarah Chen woke up floating in a rescue pod. Her head hurt and her vision was blurry, but she was alive. Through the small window, she could see the wreckage of Orphanage 7 spreading across space like a cloud of broken dreams. 50,000 children had lived on that station. Now it was debris and cooling metal. A human rescue worker floated nearby, checking other survivors. Sarah tried to speak, but only a whisper came out. "The children," she managed to say. The rescue worker's face was grim. "I'm sorry, Director. We found very few survivors. Most of the safe areas were breached." Sarah closed her eyes. She had failed. The children she had sworn to protect were dead because she had not been strong enough to save them. But then she noticed something strange. The rescue worker was wearing a uniform she did not recognize. It looked military, but not like any human military she knew. "Where are we?" she asked. "You are aboard the THS Reckoning," the worker replied. "Admiral Thorne will want to speak with you when you are able." Sarah had never heard of a ship called the Reckoning. She had never heard of Admiral Thorne either, but as she looked around the medical bay, she saw something that made her heart race. The walls were covered with weapons, not medical equipment, but actual military hardware. This was not a rescue ship. This was a warship. An hour later, Sarah was brought to the bridge. She expected to see a typical human command center with peaceful exploration equipment and communication gear. Instead, she found herself in what looked like a fortress of war. Tactical displays showed dozens of ships throughout the solar system. Weapon status boards glowed red and ready, and in the center of it all stood a man in a black uniform with silver stars. Admiral Marcus Thorne was tall and thin, with gray hair and cold blue eyes. When he looked at Sarah, she saw something that frightened her. She saw controlled rage. "Director Chen," he said quietly, "I am sorry for your loss." "Admiral, I don't understand," Sarah said. "Where did all these ships come from?" "I thought the human fleet was decommissioned after the peace accords." Thorne smiled, but it was not a pleasant smile. The civilian fleet was decommissioned. These ships were never civilian. Sarah looked around the bridge again. Everything here was designed for war. The computers, the displays, even the chairs looked like they belonged on a battleship. "How long have these ships existed?" she asked. "Since humans first went to the stars," Thorne replied. "We learned early that the galaxy was not a safe place. So we prepared." A communication officer approached the Admiral. "Sir, the Galactic Council is requesting immediate contact. They want to know about the ships we have revealed." Thorne nodded. "Put them through." The main screen lit up with the faces of the council members. Representatives from dozens of species looked confused and worried. The Altarian ambassador spoke first. "Admiral Thorne, the council demands an explanation. Our sensors detect over 300 human warships that were not reported in any official registry." "That is correct," Thorne said calmly. The Centauri representative looked angry. "This is a violation of every treaty between our species. You agreed to maintain only a defensive force." Thorne stepped forward. "We agreed to maintain only a defensive force in active service. These ships have been inactive. Until today." Sarah watched the exchange with growing amazement. The Admiral was speaking to the most powerful beings in the galaxy as if they were children. The Rigelian ambassador tried to sound reasonable. "Admiral, we understand you are upset about the attack on the orphanage. But revealing hidden weapons will only make the situation worse." "Worse?" Thorne's voice remained calm, but Sarah heard something dangerous underneath. "Ambassador, 50,000 children are dead. How exactly could the situation be worse?" "The Zaphirian Empire will see this as an act of war," the Altarian said. "There will be massive conflict across the galaxy." Thorne nodded slowly. "You are absolutely right. There will be massive conflict. But not across the galaxy." The council members looked confused. The Centauri representative spoke carefully. "What do you mean?" "I mean the conflict will be very localized," Thorne replied. "It will happen wherever Zaphirian military forces currently exist, which after today will not be very many places." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. The Admiral was not talking about defense. He was talking about attack. The Altarian ambassador tried again. "Admiral, humanity has always been the peaceful species in this galaxy. You are the healers, the teachers, the protectors. This is not who you are." Thorne was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was different. softer but somehow more frightening. You are right, Ambassador. For 300 years, humanity chose to be healers and teachers and protectors. We built hospitals instead of weapons factories. We trained doctors instead of soldiers. We chose to show the galaxy a better way. He gestured toward the wreckage of the orphanage, still visible through the bridge windows. The Zaphirian Empire has shown us what they think of our better way. They murdered 50,000 children to prove that kindness is weakness. The council members shifted uncomfortably. Sarah noticed that none of them tried to defend the Zaphirian attack. So we have learned something today, Thorn continued. We have learned that not everyone in this galaxy wants to be better. Some civilizations prefer to remain savage. The Admiral walked closer to the screen. The Zaphirian Empire believes that might makes right. That the strong should prey on the weak. That children exist only to be turned into weapons. His voice grew colder. Very well. They want to see strength? We will show them what human strength looks like when it is no longer tempered by mercy. The Rigelian ambassador looked terrified. Admiral, what are you planning to do? Thorn smiled that unpleasant smile again. We are going to give the Zaphirian Empire exactly what they asked for. They wanted to see human weakness turn to strength. They wanted to learn what happens when peaceful people are pushed too far. He turned to his tactical officer. Status report on Operation Reckoning. All strike groups are in position, Admiral. We have targets locked on every Zaphirian military installation in this sector. Sarah felt her legs go weak. Operation Reckoning. This had been planned. The ships, the positions, the attacks. Humans had been preparing for this. How long have you been planning this? She asked quietly. Thorn looked at her with those cold blue eyes. Since the first time a species threatened human civilians. We hoped we would never need these plans. But we always knew someday we might. He turned back to the council. Ambassadors, you have 30 minutes to contact any of your citizens in Zaphirian space and tell them to leave. After that, we cannot guarantee their safety. You cannot attack an entire empire. The Centauri representative protested. You are wrong, Thorn said simply. We can, we will. And we are. The communication ended, leaving the bridge in silence. Sarah stared at the Admiral, trying to understand what was happening. Admiral, those children on the station, she said. They were not just human children. They were from dozens of species, including Zaphirian children. Thorn nodded. Yes, children who were under human protection. All of them. So this is not about human children specifically. This is about any children under our care. That is correct, Director. Sarah thought about little Crix and all the other children who had died. She thought about the trust in their eyes when they looked to her for protection. What happens now? She asked. Admiral Thorn looked out at the stars, where invisible human fleets were moving into attack positions. Now, Director, the galaxy learns what happens when you make humanity choose between peace and protecting children. He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was quiet and final. The galaxy is about to discover that when it comes to children under our protection, humanity will choose the children, every single time. The attack began at exactly midnight Galactic Standard Time. Across 17 star systems, Zaphirian military bases simply vanished in brilliant flashes of light. Sarah Chen watched from the Bridge of the Reckoning as tactical reports flooded in. Each report told the same story: complete destruction of Zaphirian military assets. No warning shots. No demands for surrender. Just elimination, Zaphirian. Command Base Omega-7 destroyed, reported the TER communication officer. Fleet Base Terminus eliminated, came another report. Supply Station Keth Prime no longer exists. Admiral Thorn stood quietly in the center of the bridge, watching the reports come in. His face showed no emotion, but Sarah could see the tension in his shoulders. Admiral, Sarah said quietly, this is not a battle. This is extermination. Thorn turned to look at her. Yes, it is. The Zaphirian Empire chose to make war on children. We are responding appropriately. Sarah felt confused and frightened by the speed and efficiency of the human attack. But where did all these ships come from? How did we build a fleet this powerful without anyone knowing? Director, may I show you something? Thorn asked. He led her to a secondary display that showed the solar system around Earth. Sarah could see dozens of ships moving between the planets and moons. Ships that looked like cargo haulers and medical vessels. What am I looking at? She asked. Hospital Ship Mercy, Thorn said, pointing to one vessel, currently carrying 200 fighters and a full Marine battalion. The medical bays were always designed for quick conversion. He pointed to another ship. Cargo Vessel Hope. The cargo bays can be reconfigured as torpedo storage in 6 hours. They have been carrying weapons for the past 50 years. Sarah stared at the display. All of our civilian ships are secretly military? Not all, Thorne admitted. But most. We learned something important when humans first went to space, Director. We learned that the galaxy is full of species like the Zaphirians, species that see kindness as weakness. He walked to another display showing human colonies throughout the galaxy. Every human world has hidden defenses. Every civilian has basic military training. Every hospital can become a command center. Every school can become a fortress. Sarah thought about her own training when she became an orphanage director. She had learned medical procedures, child psychology, and administrative skills. But she had also learned weapons handling, tactical planning, and emergency protocols. At the time, she thought it was just being prepared for emergencies. Now she understood it was preparation for war. The children on the station, she said slowly, they were learning regular school subjects. But they were also learning other things, weren't they? Thorne nodded. Every child in human care learns to think tactically. They learn to assess threats. They learn to protect themselves and others. We told ourselves it was just good education. But it was really military training, Sarah realized. Basic military training, Thorne corrected. We hoped they would never need it. But if someone ever threatened them, we wanted them to be ready. A new communication came in from the tactical officer. Admiral, we are receiving surrender requests from Zaphirian forces in the Outer Rim. Denied, Thorne said without hesitation. Sarah looked at him in shock. Admiral, if they want to surrender, the Zaphirian Empire does not take prisoners, Thorne replied coldly. They do not accept surrender. They showed us their rules when they murdered children. We are now playing by their rules. Across the galaxy, the destruction continued. But Sarah began to notice something strange in the reports. The human forces were not just attacking military targets. They were also doing something else. Admiral, I am seeing reports of weapons being delivered to Zaphirian slave worlds, she said. Are we arming their enemies? We are arming their victims, Thorne corrected. The Deltan Resistance has been fighting Zaphirian occupation for 20 years. They now have proper equipment. More reports came in. On a dozen worlds, slave species were rising up against their Zaphirian masters. But they were not fighting with crude weapons and desperate tactics. They were fighting with advanced human military equipment and professional training. How long have we been planning this? Sarah asked again. Since the Zaphirians conquered their first world, Thorne replied. We began making contact with resistance groups immediately. We provided medical aid, education, and communication equipment, and military training, Sarah added. When necessary, Thorne agreed. We told ourselves we were just helping people defend themselves. But we were really preparing for this day. A priority message came through from Admiral Torres at Earth Defense Command. His face appeared on the main screen looking exhausted. Marcus, the Galactic Council is demanding we stop the attacks immediately, Torres reported. They are threatening economic sanctions and military intervention. Thorne laughed, but it was not a happy sound. Military intervention? With what military? Half the Council species have defense agreements with us. Their fleets are mostly human-designed ships with human-trained crews. They are talking about forming a coalition, Torres warned. Let them try, Thorne replied. They will discover that their communication systems run on human-designed networks. Their supply lines depend on human cargo ships. Their medical facilities are staffed by human doctors. Sarah began to understand the full scope of what was happening. For 3 centuries, humans had integrated themselves into every aspect of galactic civilization. They were not just the caregivers and healers. They were the foundation that held everything together. We could shut down the entire galaxy, she whispered. If we wanted to, Thorne confirmed. But we do not want to hurt innocent people. We only want to eliminate the Zaphirian Empire. Another tactical report came in. Admiral, Zaphirian High Command is requesting immediate negotiations. They want to discuss terms. Tell them the terms are simple, Thorne said. Complete dissolution of the Empire. All slave worlds to be freed. All Zaphirian military forces to be disbanded. All war criminals to be handed over for trial. And if they refuse? The communication officer asked. Thorne looked out at the stars. Then in 72 hours there will be no Zaphirian Empire left to refuse. Sarah watched the Admiral's face and saw something that frightened her more than the weapons or the ships or the tactical displays. She saw absolute certainty. Marcus, she said, using his first name for the first time. What have we become? Thorn was quiet for a long moment. When he answered, his voice was sad but firm. We have become what we always were. Sarah, we just stopped pretending to be something else. He gestured toward the wreckage of the orphanage, still visible in the distance. For 300 years, we chose to be gentle. We chose to heal instead of hurt. We chose to protect instead of attack. We believed that showing the galaxy a better way would make everyone better. His voice grew harder. The Zaphirian Empire showed us how naive we were. They took our gentleness for weakness. They thought they could murder children without consequences. So now we show them the truth, Sarah said quietly. Now we show them the truth, Thorn agreed. We show them what human gentleness really was. It was not weakness. It was choice. Sarah looked around the bridge at the human crew members. They worked with calm efficiency, destroying an empire with the same careful attention they once gave to healing the sick. And what happens after the empire is gone? She asked. Admiral Thorn smiled, and for the first time it looked genuine. Then we go back to building orphanages, Director. We go back to caring for children. We go back to showing the galaxy a better way. But now they will know, Sarah said. Yes, Thorn agreed. Now they will know that our choice to be gentle was always exactly that. A choice. 6 months after the bombing of Orphanage 7, Sarah Chen stood in the rebuilt Memorial Hall. The walls were covered with photographs of the 50,000 children who had died. Every face, every name, every small life that had been cut short. She paused in front of Crix's picture. The little Zaphirian boy smiled out at her from the memorial wall. He would have been 7 years old now. He would have been learning to read advanced galactic script and playing with his friends. Instead, he was a photograph on a wall. Director Chen, a small voice said behind her. Sarah turned to see a young Deltan girl. Her people had been slaves of the Zaphirian Empire until 6 months ago. Now they were free and their children were coming to human orphanages for care and education. Yes, Lisa, Sarah said gently. The girl looked up at the memorial wall. Were these children your family? Sarah knelt down to the girl's level. Yes, they were. All the children in our care are our family. The ones who hurt them, Lisa said quietly. Are they gone now? Sarah nodded. Yes, they are gone. They can never hurt anyone again. The Zaphirian Empire had ceased to exist 3 months ago. Not conquered, not defeated, but simply erased. Their military was gone. Their government was gone. Their ability to threaten anyone was gone. The former Zaphirian worlds were now free systems learning to govern themselves. Some had asked to join the Human Protection Network. Others wanted to remain independent but allied. All of them had established new laws protecting children. Director Chen, Lisa said, are you sad about what happened to the bad people? Sarah considered the question carefully. The child was asking something important and she deserved an honest answer. I am sad that they chose to be bad people, Sarah said finally. I am sad that they made us stop them, but I'm not sad that they cannot hurt children anymore. Lisa nodded as if this made perfect sense to her. My mama says humans are the strongest people in the galaxy, but you choose to be gentle with children. Your mama is very wise, Sarah replied. After Lisa went back to her classes, Sarah walked to her office. On her desk was a report from Admiral Thorn. The human fleets were returning to their hidden bases throughout the galaxy. The hospital ships were going back to being hospital ships. The cargo vessels were returning to cargo duty, but everyone in the galaxy knew the truth now. They knew that human weakness had been a choice. They knew that human gentleness came from strength, not from the lack of it. Sarah's communication system chimed. A message from the Galactic Council was waiting. She opened it and saw the faces of the ambassadors who had tried to stop the human response to the Zaphirian attack. The Altarian ambassador spoke first. Director Chen, the Council wants to discuss the future of human-galactic relations. I am listening, Sarah said. The Centauri representative looked uncomfortable. Director, the Council recognizes that the Zaphirian Empire committed terrible crimes, but the response was extensive. Sarah raised an eyebrow. Extensive? The complete elimination of their civilization, the Rigelian ambassador said carefully. Some council members are concerned about precedent. Sarah leaned back in her chair. Ambassador, are you concerned that other species might think twice before attacking children? We are concerned about proportional response, the Altarian said. The destruction of an entire empire seems extreme. Sarah felt something cold settle in her chest. Ambassador, they murdered 50,000 children to prove a point. What would you consider a proportional response to that? The council members looked at each other uncomfortably. None of them had an answer. The Centauri ambassador tried a different approach. Director, humanity has always been the peaceful voice in galactic affairs. We hope that will continue. It will, Sarah said firmly. As long as no one threatens children under our protection. And if someone does? The Rigelian asked. Sarah looked directly at the screen. Then they will learn what the Zaphirian Empire learned. There are two kinds of civilizations in this galaxy. Those who protect children and those who threaten them. She paused to let that sink in. We trust you will choose wisely. The communication ended, leaving Sarah alone with her thoughts. Through her window, she could see the new Orphanage 7 being built. It was larger than the old one, with better defenses and more advanced safety systems. But more importantly, it was being built by volunteers from dozens of species. The attack on the original station had shocked the galaxy. Many civilizations had realized that they too had children in human care, and those children had died protecting all of them. A soft knock on her door interrupted her thoughts. Admiral Thorne entered, no longer wearing his military uniform. He was dressed in the simple clothes of a civilian contractor. The new station will be ready in 3 months, he reported. We have applications from over 100 worlds wanting to send children for care and education. Sarah nodded. Any security concerns? None, Thorne said simply. Word has spread about what happens to people who threaten human-protected children. I do not think we will have problems. Sarah looked at the Admiral. Marcus, do you think we did the right thing? Thorne was quiet for a moment. Sarah, I think we did the necessary thing. The Zaphirians believed that might made right. They believed that the strong should prey on the weak. He gestured toward the construction outside. Now the galaxy knows that we are stronger than them, but more importantly, they know we use that strength to protect the innocent, not to prey on them. And that makes us different from them, Sarah said. That makes us better than them. Thorne corrected. We could conquer worlds if we wanted to. We could make other species serve us. We could rule this galaxy through fear. But we do not want to, Sarah finished. But we do not want to, Thorne agreed. We want to build schools and hospitals. We want to care for children and heal the sick. We want to show everyone a better way to live. Sarah thought about little Crix and all the other children on the memorial wall. They died protecting that dream. Yes, Thorne said quietly. And now everyone knows what we are willing to do to protect it. After Thorne left, Sarah walked back to the memorial hall. New children were arriving every day. Refugees from former Zaphirian worlds, orphans from other conflicts, and even some young beings whose families simply wanted them to have the best education possible. They played in the recreation areas and studied in the classrooms. They laughed with their friends and learned about the galaxy around them. They were safe and happy and loved, and throughout the galaxy other civilizations watched and learned. They learned that humans meant what they said about protecting children. They learned that human patience was not weakness. They learned that human kindness came from a position of strength. Most importantly, they learned that there were consequences for threatening the innocent. Sarah stopped in front of the memorial wall one more time. The faces of 50,000 children looked back at her. All the different species, all the small lives that had been lost. Your sacrifice meant something, she whispered to their pictures. The galaxy is safer now because of what happened to you. She touched Crix's photograph gently. Sleep well, little one. No one will ever hurt children the way they hurt you. We promise. Outside the windows, the stars shone peacefully in the darkness. And in that darkness, human ships patrolled silently, making sure that peace was maintained. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Humans were not warriors by nature. They were caregivers and healers and teachers. They chose gentleness over violence, mercy over revenge, love over hate. But when someone threatened the children under their protection, humans became something else entirely. They became the guardians of innocence, the protectors of the weak, the voice of justice in an unjust galaxy. They became what nightmares feared, and everyone knew it.